Today is Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. My name is Judy Herrera and I am Camarillo, California. It is my honor and pleasure to interview Raymond Flores on behalf of the Conejo Valley Chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, and Colonial Dames, 17th Century, for the Veteranshistory Project with the Library of Congress. This interview is being recorded by Ed Lynch from Advanta Videography and contains the reflections and memories of the veteran during his time in the Marine Corps. This is Ray's story. Ray, you were born in May 1932, Oxnard, California, to Jose and Ruth Flores. You were only 5 when you lost your father. In high school, you were shy around girls. You played football, baseball, and some basketball at Ventura High School. You graduated the class of 1951. Your nickname was Choop. Your friend Tito Boy wanted you to join the Marine Corps with him. Do you want to pick up your story there?
Well, yes. At first, the first couple of times I refused it because I didn't have to go in and do anything like that. But then after a couple of weeks of misconduct, shall we say, and getting angry at the other team, I thought, okay, Tito, I'll go with you. So we went down to the recruiting office, talked to the Marine Corps recruiter, and he gave us a nice synopsis of what the Marine Corps was like and all that stuff. And he gave us, said, okay, so you guys sign up now. He said, we'll let you have 30 days to think it over. And if you decide to go and join the Marine Corps, so you come 30 days from now and we'll send you to Los Angeles. So I went home, and my mom, of course, raising up 6 and 7 of us, was busy in the kitchen like always. So Mom, I said, I joined the Marine Corps with Tito Boy. I said, I'll be leaving in a month. And of course, oh, mijo, that's good, I'm glad, you know. And so then the month went by, we played and still, you know, regular things at home. And on the 30th day, I told Mom, I said, I gotta go. I said, I gotta be down at the bottom of the hill where they're gonna pick us up. What? Where are you going? Where? What happened? I said, I told you I joined the Marine Corps with Tito Boy. I gotta go, you know. So, well, we're talking about way back when, and we didn't have I was gonna say a pot to piss in, but I don't know. But anyway, okay. And so my suitcase was a brown paper bag. I put one pair of Levi's, pair of shorts, a T-shirt, pair of socks, and well, I'm gone. Your Mom, I gotta go later. And so I went down. Tito Boy was there. We went in. The guy said, "You guys are ready?" Yes, indeed. Okay, the bus will be here in 15 minutes. So we waited. The bus came. They took us to L.A. We went to the recruiting station there in Los Angeles. And I'd never been out of Ventura, actually. And so, to me, the big city was huge. Everything was big. And so we went in there, and they said, well, I was an F, he was an O. So I went first, you know, said, okay, F, get in there, blah, blah, blah. You're okay, you're now in the Marine Corps, so to go back and sit down. We went back and sat down, and while I'm sitting there, then everybody, and then Tito Boy comes by, because he was with a sergeant, and he's walking by, hey, Tito Boy says, where are you going? He says, oh, they're sending me home because I got a police record. They got to check my record. Well, I went, you know, I said, oh, hell with this. I'm not going to go by myself. I got up, and the voice from there said, sit down, shithead, you know. He called me a shithead, you know. He said, yeah. He said, sit down. So I sat down, and next thing I know, they take us to the train, go down to San Diego. They took us off the train and put us on buses, took us to Marine Corps recruit depot. That was my introduction into the Marine Corps. And so I had to go all by myself and things like that. And but once I got there to boot camp, and they assigned us to platoons and things like that. And when we started, they gave us, you know, all our outfits and things like that. And then a couple of days 2 days went by or so. Then they said, okay, today's going to be a good day. You guys are all going to get your hair done, you know. Oh, I said, really, really? He said, we're going to get haircuts, you know. And everybody said, yeah. Well, they marched us out of the barracks to these barracks and stuff. And you couldn't see past the thing because they had all the booths covered. You couldn't, and then you went out there, but you couldn't see the guys when they came out. So when it came to be my turn, I went in, the guy sat down, and next to me, in the next booth, I heard the man say, "Wait, son," said, "how do you like it?" You know, he said, "Just a little," and he let out a blood-curdling scream, and I thought, what the hell was that? You know, and so the guy asked, "Well, how do you want it?" Just a little, and he just, I mean, he just bald. I mean, they shaved you down to nothing. And so they let us out, and everybody, the rest of the guys that were there, everybody just cracking it. We were all bald because
Yeah.
I mean that was the haircut you got in the Marine Corps when you first went in there and stuff. And so after that, we're just, well, okay, now we're in the Corps and stuff like that. And then and so for me, while I was a recruit there, it wasn't very hard because when I was younger, I had belonged to the Ventura Police Boys Club, and there I had learned the manual of arms and how to march because we marched in parades in Ventura, and I knew the manual of arms. And in boot camp, they teach you discipline also, but the manual of arms and marching, I didn't have any problems with that. And also, that was the very first time in my life that I didn't know that there was racial prejudice, because growing up in Ventura, I grew up with Nabi, Billy J, and they were black, and so they would come to my house. My mom would give them burritos whenever we were like that. So I never knew that there was discrimination until I got to boot camp, and there was this sort of tall guy from Texas that was very, very prejudiced. And so we also had a black man, that Lovett, who was from Santa Monica, and he used to be a professional boxer, but he got in the court there. And whenever we would march somewhere, this Texan guy would kind of trip Lovett and make him stagger like that. And then this one Sunday after church, we're marching, and he did the same thing, and the sergeant saw it and said, "Lovett," said, "can't you keep in step?" And one of the guys behind said, "No, sir, he's not Lovett, it's that guy behind him that keeps tripping him." And so the sergeant went up to him and said, "Oh," he said, "you don't like Lovett, no?" The guy says, "I hate blacks," you know. I said, "Wow." I said, "Really?" He said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Oh, well, would you like, you know?" So, "Oh, I'll beat the hell out of you." I said, "Oh, you will, huh?" Yeah. So we went back to our barracks, and the sergeant told one of the guys, "Go get my boxing gloves from my room." And the guy came out, and he said, "Okay, form a circle." He gave the gloves to Lovett and that guy, and they put them on, and Lovett told our drill instructor, he says, "I was a professional boxer," says, "I can't do that." And drill instructor Lovett, he said, "Right now you're lower than..." Okay. Well, I mean...
They've heard it before, it's okay.
Okay, it said, "You're lower than doctor, you do what I tell you to do." He said, "Right now, you are mine." He said, "Put the gloves on." And so he put the gloves on, and he said, "Okay," until the guy, he hit him, till the guy came. Lovett just moved his head, the guy didn't hit him. And so our drill instructor, Lovett, he said, "If you don't hit that man back, the rest of the guys are going to get their toothbrushes, and they're going to clean the barracks from one end to the other. All of us hit that, Lovett, hit him, you know." And so the guy came at him again, Lovett, like that, and Lovett went like, boom, whoa, the guy fell down. Okay, guy wake him up. Well, he got up and said, "Okay," and he did it again, boom, down again. 4 or 5 times, finally, the DI said, "Okay," he said, "guys, go in and finish having your Sunday," you know. And we never saw the man again. We were never told what happened to him. But we went to bed that night, and in the morning, everything of his was gone, everything. But we were never told what happened to him and stuff. But that was the very first time that I had known, Jesus, really? I mean, you know, there's actually people that don't like him and stuff like that. But then after that, why, everything was fine because when I was in Korea, my assistant gunner was black. Banks was his name. Wonderful man. And but that was my introduction into the Marine Corps. And then, of course, through the training, the mud and water and all that stuff that you have to go through, running up the mountains, running up the hills. And there we learned discipline, what it was really, when you're told to do something, you do it, no questions asked. You do it, whatever. And then after I graduated from boot camp, you have to, in the rifle range, you have to qualify with a rifle to shoot and whatever. And then after that, when you get your 30-day leave, they tell you, okay, for me, I got my orders to report to Camp Pendleton to a weapons company. And so I went home for my 30 days leave. My uniform, I have pictures of that when me and my mom took my picture with my mother there at the park in Ventura. When I reported back to Camp Pendleton, they said, okay, Flores, water-cooled 30, heavy water-cooled 30 machine gun. And so, oh, okay. So I learned how to take it apart, put it back together, and then of course firing level and things like that. And so then we were there training the whole time until got the orders that we were being sent to Korea. And I think, if I recall correctly, I think it was in December of 1951 that I was, I don't remember what draft it was or anything else like that, but that was when we hit a very, very bad storm going to Japan, that the ship just almost stood on end. And then when it hit, oh my God, everybody on board was sicker than dogs, and of course, not very much good stuff was flowing anywhere. And I don't know how long it lasted, but it lasted quite a while. And then I guess they were my friends, and they tied me to one of those breather tubes on top of the ship. They just tied me there and left me there, and all I know is I was just rocking back and forth and things like that. And about I don't remember what day it was, but they brought me soda crackers, solid soda crackers. They eat this, you know. So I did, and then I don't know how many days, but then after that, we docked in Sasebo, Japan, and they didn't let us off the ship. We had to stay on the ship, and we were only there, I guess, long enough to take on probably fuel. I guess that's what they did. And then we went to Korea, and I forget the name of where we landed on the east coast of Korea, but it was winter. I mean, it was winter.
Did you have a sense that there was a war going on or a conflict?
No,
No,
none whatsoever, nothing whatsoever. We just, you know, just fighting in Korea. Really? And so I had no idea of what the hell I was getting into.
Yeah.
And then when we got to the camp there on the east coast of Korea, and we got off the ship, and we're marching to where the company that we're going to replace. Some of the men are out there cheering us up, and I don't know, but like I say, how the good Lord works, but there was 2 or 3 guys from Ventura. Hey, Chu, what the hell are you doing here, you know? And it was Mo Pulido and Billy Sevalaski and one other guy that I can't think of his name. And Mo, after everything else happened. He was my barber for about 40 years
Oh,
after we got back and stuff. And then,
Wow.
and they was, oh, they, what, you know, and stuff. And so anyway, we were there at that, on the East Coast, maybe just, maybe 2 or 3 months, if I recall it the most. And it was, I mean, it was cold. It was bitter cold and stuff. And then we got the orders that we were going to be, the whole battalion, everything was going to be going to the West Coast by Panmunjom and Seoul. And so the open trucks, I mean, they were just, we just sat in these open trucks, and it took, I don't know how, 2 or 3 weeks by the time we drove from here to there, and it was ugly, bitterly cold. And then just whenever we'd stop to eat, just cold sea rations, because we had nothing to warm us up and things like that. And so, and then when we got to, you could always tell when we were getting close to a village because of the smell. I said, oh, well, they used human fertilizer for their fields and stuff like that. So we always knew when we were going to get close to the village, and oh no, not again, you know. But then, like I say, it lasted quite a while before we got to the West Coast. And then once we got to the West Coast, we were in reserve. Maybe they gave us maybe 2 or 3 weeks to get acclimatized there in the West Coast. And then we got the orders, we were going to go up on the MLR, main line of resistance there. And that was where I spent, or my company, I was attached to Item Company as a water-cooled heavy-30 machine gunner. And that's, we would go and set up in bunkers and the trenches right there, and right across the valley, we had a drop like that, and then right across there like that was the North Koreans. We could see them and give them the finger, and they did the same thing, and take pot shots, you know, and things like that and stuff. And so then the Marine Corps Corsairs would come and strafe their thing and drop napalm, and whoever, one of the North Koreans that was unfortunate enough to be caught in the open, they would just, but the smell would last for days. I mean, oh, guys, you couldn't get the smell out of your nostrils. But
Did you sleep in the trench then, or did?
oh, well, no, we slept in the bunkers.
I mean,
we
in the
slept
bu-
in the
okay.
bunker. Yeah, you
Okay.
couldn't sleep in the trench; you'd freeze to death
Yeah.
out there. So we slept in the bunkers. But every once in a while, you would have sentry duty. They would put you 20 to 30 yards out, just in case they infiltrated and things like that. And the night I went out there, oh Jesus, it was dark. Well, I don't remember what time, 2, 3 in the morning. I heard the cranking of the North Koreans, or the Chinese, used Russian weapons, Russian machine guns that they used on carts to move them from one position to another, and they made noise and stuff. So while I'm there sitting down below, you can't see nothing, it's pitch black, but you could hear they were moving the machine gun from one position to another. And right after they passed, well, of course, there's brush. You can't clear anything out of there. There's brush. And this thing came, I thought it was a grenade, and it just didn't and hit. I thought, oh, Jesus Christ, no. And I'm waiting for the damn grenade to go off, and it didn't happen. And I look over there, and it was a little bird, or dove or something. And then it flew away. But I said, oh, Jesus, I must, you know, and stuff. But that was, that was really, really one of the scariest days or night that I'd ever had, you know, and I was like, holy shit, I'm dead. And so, but then my night was over and I went back and I told Max about it. I said, hey, he just laughed. He had a hell of a good laugh. Him and the other guys too. And so there was 7 men in my squad. I was the gunner, Banks was the assistant gunner, and the other 5 were ammo carriers. They would carry the boxes of ammo that I would use to fire in. And then we would be up there for, God Lord, maybe a month. We would be up on line for about a month. It seemed like longer, but, and then maybe we would, if, depending on the rotation that they had in reserve, who could come up and replace you at that point in time, we would go back into reserve and take showers and have hot food, hot warm food, and that would only last maybe a week or 2 weeks at the most, and then we'd go back up online and replace another company. And
When you were online then, were you back to the C rations and?
oh God, Lord, yes, yes. No warm, well, when you're up online, you have to eat C rations, and then they give you those little sterno things to warm the C rations up with. And basically, that's how you warmed up your food. If you were lucky enough to have one of those sterno tubes or get some. And so, and then,
Did you want to mention that one time about Banks was a cook in his
oh,
former
yes.
life?
Oh, and then one time when we have no idea where Banks got the potatoes, but he used to be a cook and in civilian life, I guess, because he cooked. Anyway, we were out during the day. We spread out on the bud and in the trenches and kind of take pot shots up at them. And when we all of us came back in, their Banks had made a pot, a helmet pot of mashed potatoes. And oh my God, they tasted so good. Where did you get the potato? He wouldn't tell us where he got the potatoes, so we don't know where he got them from. But I mean, that was one of the best warm meal we had in a very, very long time.
Nice
but,
treat.
Yeah, he was quite a gentleman. I can say that about Banks and stuff. And so the night, and this is the part where
I know.
it's kind of tough for me to talk about. And
Take your time.
and you would think that after all this time, all these years, that it would be easier to talk about, but whenever I go to the VA and whenever I change one to the other, they always ask me the same questions and this, that, and everything else. And then the psychiatrists, they always told me the same thing. Ray, when people ask you questions about that night and things like that, always just answer truthfully and just tell it how it was, because if you don't, he said, it festers inside of you and it can make you sick, or it can cause bad problems. And so I said, really? I said, yes. And so whenever I'm asked, the questions of things like that, I try to, but it's still, and like I tell Fina, I said, why? I mean, why can't I just talk about?
It was difficult.
Definitely.
Definitely.
And without, and every time I talk about it, just, it really just, it's like it happening again. And, but it happened August 12th and 13th, the night of August 12th and 13th. We were told we were going to replace a company on the front slope of the Bunker Hill. And so it was It was afternoon when we replaced the company and things like that, set up the machine gun. It was, I set it up and ran the belts through and everything else. And then maybe no more than an hour, 2 hours or so went by, and the first attack came. And of course, we're firing away. I'm firing away, and I don't know how long I fired. I have no idea how many boxes of ammo I used, but as soon as one belt went down, I'd flip up the lid, Banks would put another belt in. We would just, and I had used on my gun, free, it swiveled up and down and sight all over the place, so I didn't have to go this far, that far, and I had free range all the way across. And so that's how I fired it. And then I don't know, I have no recollection of how long we fired or how long I fired. And then the barrel got hot, and we had to replace the barrel in the machine gun, and then put another new barrel in, and then continued fighting, firing and stuff. Ran out of water, had to get water from somewhere, and of course, guys said pee in their canteen so we could keep the barrel as cool as possible. And I don't know, I don't have no concept of how late, but then it was dark. Then it got dark, and they were still coming. I mean, they just kept on and on and on, and someplace, somewhere in time there, I don't recall, I have no idea of the time and stuff, but I got hit with, well, they were also throwing, and got hit with shrapnel, a piece of shrapnel here, and I thought, Jesus, so I took it out, and then got something here, but I don't remember what it was. So, but we just kept on firing, and then finally it was coming daylight. It was starting to get daylight.
The Battle of Bunker Hill was a battle fought between 9 August and September 30, 1952 during the Korean War between United Nations Command and Chinese forces over several frontline outposts. Background: in March 1952, the U.S. 1st Marine Division was transferred to USI Corps and moved onto the Jamestown Line, the UN's main line of resistance across Korea. The segment of the Jamestown Line assigned to the 1st Marine Division extended southwest from the Sanakin River in the left flank of the British 1st Commonwealth Division, crossed the 38th parallel, shifted to the south bank of the Imjin River in the vicinity of Munsan-ni, continued to the conflux of the Imjin and Han River, and then followed the south bank of the Han past the Kinpo Peninsula. Opposing the Marines on the Jamestown Line, the Chinese People's Volunteer Army had the 65th and 63rd Armies, totaling 49,800 troops. Battle. Outpost Siberia. Shortly after midnight on 9th of August, the PVA seized Outpost Siberia, the site of a squad-size outpost, and also probed the positions of the 1st Marine Regiment. Siberia lay midway between the MLR and the line of PVA outposts. PVA possession of Siberia would provide observation posts to adjust artillery and mortar fire against the nearest segment of the Jamestown Line. As a result, Colonel Walter F. Layer's 1st Marines, on the right of the division's line, counterattacked at once, using the same unit, Company E, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines that had dispatched the squad driven from Siberia. PVA artillery and mortar fire, directed from Hills 110 and 120, stopped the counterattack short of its objective. The Marines called for air strikes and additional artillery fire before renewing the counterattack on Siberia. At 6:50, 4 F-9F jets from the 1st Marine Air Wing struck, dropping napalm and 500-pound bombs. Shortly before 10 o'clock, Air Force F-80 jets dropped 1,000-pound bombs, and a platoon from Company A, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, the regimental reserve of the 1st Marines, stormed the hill, with the support of a platoon from the 2nd Battalion's Company E. The PVA again replied with mortars and artillery but could not stop the assault, which seized the crest. The supporting platoon from Company E joined in organizing the defense of the recaptured outpost, which came under a deadly torrent of accurate fire that forced the Marines to seek the protection of the reverse slope, nearer the MLR, where they held out until mid-afternoon before falling back. The PVA's artillery and mortars had fired an estimated 5,000 rounds, wounding or killing 3/4 of the Marines who had attacked Siberia on the morning of 9th of August. While Companies E and A reorganized, the task of recapturing Siberia fell to Company C, which attacked with 2 platoons starting uphill at 1:16 on 10th of August. A firefight erupted, lasting 4 hours, but the Marines gained the crest and held it until dawn, when driven from Siberia by a PVA counterattack. The losses suffered by the 1st Marines, 17 killed and 243 wounded within 30 hours, convinced Colonel Layer that his regiment could not hold Siberia if Hill 122, nicknamed Bunker Hill, remained in PVA hands. He and his staff planned a sudden thrust at Bunker Hill, possession of which would enable his command to dominate Siberia and observe movement beyond the PVA outpost line. Battle for Bunker Hill. To disguise the true objective, Lieutenant Colonel Roy J. Batterton attacked Siberia at dusk on 11th of August with 1 company from his 2nd Battalion. The 1st Tank Battalion supported the maneuver with 4 M46 Patton tanks, each mounting a 90mm gun and an 18-inch searchlight fitted with shutter to highlight a target in a brief burst of illumination, and 4 M4A3E8 tanks, each carrying a flamethrower. While the M46S hammered Hill 110, the M4A3E8S climbed Siberia, using bursts of flame to light their way and gained the crest before doubling back toward Marine lines. As the flame-throwing M4A3E8 withdrew, the M46s opened fire on both Siberia and Hill 110, illuminating targets with 5-second bursts of light from their shuttered searchlights, and Company D overran Siberia, holding the crest until midnight when the diversionary attack ended. The Bunker Hill Assault Force, Company B, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines under the operational control of Batterton's 2nd Battalion, reached the crest by 22:30 and began driving the PVA from the slope nearest the MLR. The PVA defenders recovered from their initial surprise, but the bypassed pockets of PVA soldiers, though they tried to resist, could not check the Marine advance. In the wake of the assault force, other Marines and members of the Korean Service Corps manhandled sandbags, wire, and shovels up the hill to help Company B organize the defenses of the objective against the counterattack that was certain to come. PVA mortars and artillery harassed the Marines on Bunker Hill until dawn on 12th of August, but the counterattack did not come until mid-afternoon, after Company B passed under the operational control of 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines. The defense of Bunker Hill became the responsibility of the battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Gerard T. Armitage. The volume and accuracy of the shelling increased at about 1,500 hours, a barrage that lasted an hour and forced the Marines to seek the protection from direct fire afforded by the reverse slope. Company I, 3-1 Marines, reinforced the embattled Company B in time to help break up an attack by some 350 PVA and hold the southern slope of Bunker Hill. While the battle raged on Bunker Hill, 1st Marine Division Commander General John T. Selden moved his reserves closer to the fighting. Company I, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, took the place of Company I 3-1 Marines on the MLR, and by the end of the day, all of the 3 7th Marines had come under the operational control of the 3-1 Marines. Selden attached the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, to strengthen the reserve of the 1st Marines. Meanwhile, Colonel Layer moved 2 provisional platoons from his reserve, the 1st Battalion, to reinforce the 3rd Battalion, and the 3rd Battalion's reconnaissance platoon established an outpost on Hill 124, linking Bunker Hill with the MLR. This shuffling of units proved necessary because the 1st Marine Division was so thinly spread over an extended front. During the realignment, supporting weapons, ranging from machine guns through mortars and artillery to rocket batteries, prepared to box in the Marines holding the near slope of Bunker Hill, hammer the PVA at the crest and beyond, protect the flanks, and harass movement on the routes PVA reinforcements would have to use. As daylight faded into dusk on 12th of August, the Marines defending the reverse slope of Bunker Hill struggled to improve their hurriedly prepared fortifications for the anticipated PVA night counterattack. The comparatively gentle incline of the reverse slope of the ridge that culminated in Bunker Hill reduced the amount of dead space that could not be covered by grazing fire from the Marine position. Moreover, weapons on the Jamestown line could fire directly onto the crest when the expected attack began. By 2000 hours, all the supporting weapons had registered to help the two companies hold the position. Just as the Marines had attacked Siberia on the evening of 11th of August to divert attention from Bunker Hill, the PVA sought to conceal the timing of their inevitable counterthrust. Shortly before midnight on the night of 12th of August, the PVA probed the division sector at 3 points. While one PVA patrol was stumbling into an ambush set by Korean Marines, another harried a Marine outpost east of Bunker Hill. The third and strongest blow, however, landed after midnight at Stromboli, a Marine outpost on Hill 48A 4,500 yards northeast of Bunker Hill at the far right of the sector held by the 1st Marine Regiment, near the boundary with the 5th Marine Regiment. In conjunction with the attack on Stromboli, launched in the early hours of August 13, the PVA hit Company F on the right of the line held by the 1st Marines. The PVA failed to crack the Jamestown defenses, but they inflicted so many casualties at Stromboli that reinforcements had to be sent. The reinforcing unit, a squad from Company F, came under mortar and machine gun fire from the PVA probing Company F's defenses and had to return to the MLR. Pressure against Stromboli and its defenders continued until the commander of Company F sent a stronger force that fought its way to the outpost, breaking the PVA encirclement. The 5th Marines moved one company into a blocking position behind the Jamestown line near Stromboli in case the fighting again flared at that outpost. Meanwhile, the PVA attempted to seize Bunker Hill. At about 1 o'clock on 13th of August, intense PVA artillery and mortar fire persuaded Captain Connolly of Company I to request box-me-in fires, which the 11th Marine Regiment provided immediately. PVA infantry, supported by machine gun fire, advanced behind bursting shells, but the Marines fought back with every weapon they could bring to bear: artillery, mortars, tank guns, rockets, rifles, and automatic weapons. After almost 4 hours, the violence abated as the PVA relaxed his pressure on Bunker Hill. Company G, 3/7 Marines, joined 3/1 Marines before the PVA broke off the action and withdrew behind a screen of artillery and mortar fire. Except for a determined few, whom the Marines killed, the PVA abandoned Bunker Hill. Colonel Layer took advantage of the lull to send Company H, 3/7 Marines, to relieve the Marines holding the hill. He afterward withdrew all the other elements of the 7th Marines that had reinforced his regiment, but not until a patrol from Company I had reconnoitered the far slope of the hill. In keeping with their usual tactics, the PVA tried to divert attention from Bunker Hill before attacking again. Mortars and artillery shelled Combat Outpost 2, overlooking the Panmunjom corridor on the left of the sector held by the 3/1 Marines, and also harassed the MLR nearby. The main PVA thrust, directed as expected against Bunker Hill, began at about 2100 hours on the night of 13th of August. While shells still exploded on Combat Outpost 2, the PVA intensified the bombardment of Bunker Hill, which had been under sporadic fire throughout the afternoon. PVA troops hit Company H, attacking simultaneously near the center of the position and on the right flank. High explosive shells boxed in the Marines, and illuminating rounds helped them isolate and kill the few PVA who had penetrated the position. The Chinese battalion that attacked Bunker Hill on the night of 13th of August again tested the Marine defenses at 2:25 on 14th of August. Before this unit's second attack, a PVA machine gun on Siberia began firing onto Bunker Hill. Marine M46s illuminated Siberia briefly with their searchlights and silenced the weapon with 90mm fire, revealing the position of the tanks and enabling PVA artillery fire to wound a crewman of one of them. The 1st Marines responded to the fighting of 13 and 14th of August by reinforcing both Bunker Hill and the nearest segment of the Jamestown line, the so-called Siberia sector, in anticipation of further PVA attacks. As part of the preparation, Company H, 7th Marines, which still held Bunker Hill, patrolled the slopes where the PVA had launched several attacks but found no Chinese, a situation that rapidly changed. At 1:18 on 15th of August, a deluge of PVA artillery began pummeling the Marine position, while PVA infantry jabbed at the defenses. Once again, Marine supporting weapons laid down final protective fires that prevented this latest attack from gaining momentum. The crew of an M46 tank triggered the shutter of its searchlight and illuminated a force of PVA massing in a draw. Before these soldiers could launch their assault, fire from tanks, artillery, and mortars tore into the group, killing or wounding many and scattering the survivors. Even though Marine supporting weapons had deflected this planned thrust, the PVA regrouped, called in additional supporting fire and advanced. The bombardment by mortars and artillery attained a volume of 100 rounds per minute before ending at about 4 o'clock, when the PVA apparently realized they could not overwhelm Bunker Hill and called off the attack. When the threat abated, Company H withdrew to the MLR, leaving the defense of Bunker Hill to Company B. The quiet lasted only until late afternoon. At 1640, the PVA attacked during a thunderstorm, avoiding the use of mortars or artillery, presumably to achieve surprise, but once again the attack failed. The PVA refused, however, to abandon their attempts to seize Bunker Hill. At 0:40 on 16th of August, a PVA battalion attacked behind mortar and artillery fire, penetrating to the crest of the hill. Company B, which now held the hill, called for reinforcements, and a platoon from Company I, 3/7 Marines, arrived as this assault was ending. The PVA again probed the hill with fire but did not press the attack. Before Company C, 1 Marines, Company B, it came under artillery fire 3 more times. The succession of Marine companies that took over Bunker Hill had to repel 7 attacks before the end of August, but only one, on the night of 25 to 26 August, threatened to overrun the outpost. The struggle for Bunker Hill cost the Marines 48 killed, 313 seriously wounded, and hundreds of others who suffered minor wounds. The number of known PVA dead exceeded 400 and total casualties may have numbered 3,200. The month ended with Bunker Hill in Marine hands. As the month of August wore on, any lull in the action around Bunker Hill usually coincided with a surge in the fighting elsewhere, usually on the right of the MLR, the segment held by the 5th Marines, commanded after 16th of August by Colonel Eustace R. Smoke. On 6th of August, while Colonel Culhane still commanded the regiment, the PVA began chipping away at the outpost line in front of the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, which consisted of outposts Elmer, Hilda, and Irene. Because the battalion manned the outposts only in daylight, the PVA simply occupied Elmer, farthest to the southwest, after dusk on 6th of August and employed artillery fire to seal off the approaches and prevent the Marines from returning after daybreak. The PVA took over outpost Hilda on the night of 11th of August, driving back the Marines sent to reoccupy it the following morning. The same basic tactics enabled the PVA to take over outpost Irene on the 17th. During an unsuccessful attempt to regain the third of the outposts, Private First Class Robert E. Simonek saved the lives of other Marines by diving onto a PVA hand grenade, absorbing the explosion with his body, suffering severe though not fatal wounds, and earning the Medal of Honor. Heavy rains turned roads into swamps throughout the Marine sector, swept away a bridge over the Imjin River, and forced the closing of a ferry. Bunkers remained largely unaffected by flooding, but the deluge interfered with both air support and combat on the ground. Since the rain fell alike on the UN and PVA forces, activity halted temporarily when 9 inches fell between 23 and 25 August. Major General Edwin A. Pollock assumed command of the 1st Marine Division on August 29, 1952, and he immediately had to deal with renewed PVA pressure against the Bunker Hill complex, now held by Company E, 21 Marines, attached temporarily to the regiment's 3D Battalion. On the night of 4th of September, PVA gunners began shelling the outpost and probing its right flank, but small arms fire forced the enemy to pull back. The resulting lull lasted only until 1 o'clock on 5th of September, when PVA mortars and artillery resumed firing, concentrating on Bunker Hill. Apparently confident that the barrage had neutralized the defenses, the attackers ignored cover and concealment and moved boldly into an unexpected hail of fire that drove them back. After regrouping, the PVA attacked once again, this time making use of every irregularity in the ground and employing the entire spectrum of weapons from hand grenades to artillery. This latest effort went badly awry when a force trying to outflank Bunker Hill lost its way and drew fire from Marines on the MLR. The attackers tried to correct their mistake only to come under fire from their fellow PVA who had penetrated the extreme right of Bunker Hill's defenses and may have mistaken their comrades for counterattacking Marines. Amid the confusion, Company E surged forward and drove the PVA from the outpost. The Marines of Company E suffered 12 killed and 40 wounded in routing a PVA battalion while killing an estimated 335 PVA. Outpost Bruce. Yet another diversionary attack on Outpost Stromboli coincided with the thrust against Bunker Hill. The Marines defending Stromboli sustained no casualties in breaking up an attack by a PVA platoon supported by machine guns. The 2nd and 3rd Battalions, 5th Marines fought to defend their outpost line from Allen in the west, through Bruce, Clarence, Donald, Felix, and Gary, to Jill in the east against a succession of attacks that began in the early hours of 5th of September. At Outpost Bruce, manned by Company I, 3/5th Marines, under Captain Edward E. Holt Jr., a company of attacking infantry followed up a savage barrage. Private First Class Alfred L. McLaughlin killed or wounded an estimated 200 PVA, victims of the machine guns, carbines and grenades that he used at various times during the fight, and survived to receive the Medal of Honor. Private First Class Fernando L. Garcia also earned the award, although already wounded. He threw himself on a PVA grenade, sacrificing his life to save his platoon sergeant. Hospitalman 3rd Class Edward C. Benfold saw 2 wounded Marines in a shell hole on Outpost Bruce. As he prepared to attend to them, a pair of grenades thrown by 2 onrushing PVA soldiers fell inside the crater. Benfold picked up 1 grenade in each hand, scrambled from the hole, and pressed a grenade against each of the 2 soldiers. The explosions killed both the Chinese, as Benfold sacrificed himself to save the 2 wounded Marines, earning a posthumous Medal of Honor. When dawn broke on 5th of September, Company I still clung to Outpost Bruce, even though only 2 bunkers, both on the slope nearest the Jamestown line, survived destruction by mortar and artillery shells. Reinforcements, construction and other supplies, and ammunition were rushed to the battered outpost despite harassing fire directed at the trails leading there. Marine and Air Force pilots tried to suppress the PVA gunners with 10 air strikes that dropped napalm as well as high explosive. On the morning of 6th of September, the defenders of Outpost Bruce beat off another attack, finally calling for box-me-in fires that temporarily put an end to infantry assaults. At dusk, however, the PVA again bombarded the outpost, this time for an hour, before attacking with infantry while directing long-range fire at neighboring Outpost Allen to the southwest. The Marines defending Outpost Bruce survived to undergo further attack on the early morning of 7th of September. 2 PVA companies tried to envelop the hilltop, using demolitions in an attempt to destroy any bunkers not yet shattered by the latest shelling. For a total of 51 hours, the PVA besieged Outpost Bruce before breaking off the action by sunrise on the 7th. At Bruce, the site of the deadliest fighting in this sector, the Marines suffered 19 killed and 38 wounded. PVA killed and wounded at Outpost Bruce may have totaled 400. In late September, the PVA again attacked the combat outposts manned by Colonel Layer's 1st Marines, especially Hill 122 and Hill 124 at the southwestern tip of the same ridge line. The PVA struck first at Hill 124, attacking by flare light from 4 directions but failing to dislodge the squad dug in there, even though most of the Marines suffered at least minor wounds. The entire ridge from Hill 124 to Hill 122 remained under recurring attack for the remainder of September, especially Bunker Hill itself, where the PVA clung to advanced positions as close as 30 yards to Marine trenches. The PVA frequently probed Bunker Hill's defenses by night, and the Marines took advantage of darkness to raid PVA positions, using portable flamethrowers and demolitions to destroy bunkers while fire from tanks and artillery discouraged counterattacks. Aftermath. As October began, heavier PVA shelling, the prelude to a series of attacks on outposts all across the division front from the Korean Marine Corps on the left, past the 1st Marines and Bunker Hill, to the far right, where the 7th Marine Regiment had taken over from the 5th Marines, now in reserve. To make communications more secure, the 7th Marines redesignated outposts Allen, Bruce, Clarence, Donald, Gary, and Jill, replacing proper names, in alphabetical order, with the randomly arranged names of cities: Carson, Reno, Vegas, Berlin, Detroit, Frisco, and Seattle. The first 3 outposts would become known as the Nevada Complex and would be the scene of further intensive fighting in the coming months. Despite regular small ambushes and artillery attacks, UN forces would hold Bunker Hill until the end of the war. As Bunker Hill lay within the Korean demilitarized zone set out in the Korean Armistice Agreement, the Marines had only 72 hours after the ceasefire began to evacuate the position. Moreover, anything salvaged from Bunker Hill had to travel over a primitive road described as particularly tortuous, which made the transfer of first the ammunition and then the fortification materials a physical ordeal.
And a runner came up and said, "You guys are being replaced. You guys are being replaced. Go back on the other slope." And Banks said, "Okay, you speak. We got to go." So he pulled the gun. Being the gunner, I took the tripod. The tripod weighed 54 pounds. The gun 45 pounds. And so I just picked it up and threw it on my back. And I went over and to tell my ammo carriers, Red and Curtis, with it, that Red, Curtis, we're being pulled back, and as I started to talk a lot around, landed right in their hole, and just like that, they were gone. I remember just seeing red, nothing but red, just nothing. They were just gone. And then something went by my ear, and then Banks, Spick, we gotta go. And then he yelled at the guy, "Go, everybody, run," And so I remember running up the hill and getting to the reverse slope, and I remember I'm hugging this big rock. And just crying. And the next thing, I vaguely remember Banks saying something about it's okay, or something to that. I really don't remember what he said, but then the next thing that I remember from that is I'm in the trench there by our bunker, and I tell Flat, boy, last night was a bitch, man. And he said, "Spick," he said, "that was 2 weeks ago." And I said, "What? No, that was no," he said, "that was 2 weeks ago." Mm. So I lost 2 weeks, and I have no idea what transpired in between the two. I must have been functioning, otherwise, I was there. And so I vaguely remember somebody, I don't know who, saying that I was getting a Bronze Star and flag was being promoted to corporal. But I did just something that nobody ever talked about it after that at all that I can recall. And then, so then after that, we got pulled. We went, after that night, the next day, our company was sent into reserve, and we were only there again for maybe a week or so, and then we went back up on line, but to a different sector than Bunker Hill. I don't remember the name of the other hill that we went to, but that night we lost a tremendous number of Marines. When I was overseas, when we were in Korea, some of us, I don't remember who, if it was a company or just squads, we were selected to go for amphib training off of this big Navy cruiser. I don't remember the name of it or anything else like that, but when we came on board that Navy ship and we're walking down to where we're going to be sleeping, we passed this room that had one wall full of candy and an ice cream counter. And there was a young man behind her, and I said, "Is that real candy?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Real ice?" "Yeah." I said, "Holy shit, I said, really?" "Yeah." I said, "Jane he gave me a candy bar. I think it was one with that coconuts in it." And then we passed through where the seamen slept. The beds were all made, and I said, "Holy shit, look how, really? I mean, oh yeah, and then the warm meals and the kids." I said, "Jesus Christ," I said, this is great, you know. And that always stuck in my mind, that how clean everything was in the Navy. And but that was basically the worst part of being in Korea, other than the winters were so bitterly cold. They were bitterly cold. And then, of course, we never really got the proper winter gear. We were just had what they gave us and things like that. And so once then, after that, it was spring, winter ended, and the spring and the summer were really gorgeous in Korea. They were very, very nice. And then I don't remember the month that they sent me to Kyoto for 10 days R&R, which was, and for me, that was my introduction into the adult world, literally, because I had never drank or never talked to any girls or anything else like that growing up. And so, but I was very fortunate, I guess I was fortunate to have been paired with this man from, he was from Arizona, Art. And he knew all the ropes, he knew everything about that stuff. And so when we got there, they said, "Okay, Ray," and "You got $200 worth of script that you can transfer into Japanese yen, you know." So I said, "Just take it." Oh, okay. So I said, "Damn." Well, they brought out the 200 yen in paper bags. Jesus, I mean, it was so much money that that was. We went. They let us out the gate there in the camp, and there's tons of rickshaws because everybody is going to, and all of Marine rickshaw, good. I could take you to a good place. And this one guy said, 333 Club, Marine, you come 333 Club. So I said, "Let's go with it." So we got in. He took us to the 333 Club. And when we got there, I mean, this place was huge. It was, I mean, it's like this was. We went in. There was one band playing here, country music. The other band was jazz and things, and all around were girls sitting there. We said, "Whoa, Lord, where they are?" No, we're okay. So they took us to a table, and Art tells the man that "You bring us the biggest beer you got, you know." So, and they brought an Asahi beer. I swear it was that tall, you know. I said, "Art?" I said, "No, speak." He said, "Start with a glass." Just start with a little bit of my glass. I don't remember finishing the glass. But I remember I'm dancing. And I'd never danced in my life. And the lady there said, "Oh, Malin," she said, "you're the best dancer in the world." I haven't stopped dancing since.
Yeah.
And so, but then, I don't know, should I?
Yes, of course.
And so, the next thing I remember is waking up like this in bed and flop, oh Jesus, whoa, and a lady was there. And about that time, Art came in and said, hey, you woke up, huh? No, it's okay, it's all right. And that was my introduction into the world of life. And so anyway, we spent the next 10 days together because I guess that's how it worked. anyway, and so the next thing I told her, I said, see, I'm going to marry this lady. I'm in love, man. I'm not going back to Korea. To hell with that crap, I'm not, don't take me back. Okay, he said, don't worry about it. You don't have to go back. Well, the night we were supposed to go back, the day got me so drunk, I woke up on the plane going back. And I said, oh, woke up, well, oh, Artie, he said, no, sweetie, you know you weren't going to stay there. I said, I wasn't? Yeah. But anyway, then I went back to Korea, and then I finished my tour of duty, and then in January of 52, the order came that, okay, what? Yeah, you're going home. What? I said, yeah, you're going home. You're being rotated. Oh my God! And so they took us back. They took me back to reserve, and then there, they spray you with whatever, the DDT or whatever to kill all the bugs. They just spray you all over, and stuff like that. I said, okay. And then next thing I know, I said, I'm on a plane, not going home, but they took me to the ship, and then the ship that came, I have no idea what the name of that ship that brought me home at all was, but we landed there in Vallejo, Mir Island, and to me it was like the middle of the night, and they said, okay, you guys, you're gone. What? So, wait a minute, what do you mean we're gone? They said, yeah. I said, you're off. You're on your own. I said, how am I supposed to get home to Ventura? The best way you can. Really? And I mean, there must have been, I don't know, 9,000 guys that they let off of the ship. Well, not that many because it was rotation. But I mean, all of us, well, nobody knew who could call family to come and get you, And so what several of us did is we got to 80, Highway 80, and of course we were in our uniform, the green uniform that they gave us, and so we were hitchhiking, and I went down a little ways further than everybody else, and so I'm just standing there, by the thing, and this man pulls up, hey, Marine, says, where are you going? I said, I'm trying to get to Ventura, sir. He says, well, he said, I'm going to St. Luis Obispo. Is that close enough? Hell yes. I said, I can walk home from there, sir. And so he dropped me off at St. Luis Obispo, and then I got another ride into Ventura, and that's how I got home from Korea. And
did you get many letters during your time in country?
No.
Did you get letters? Nothing.
No,
from
the
your
only
mom?
one that ever wrote to me was my mom.
Okay.
And then she would just, say the family's fine and everybody's okay. And other than that, my sister Emily would write once in a grade 5, but I didn't know anybody else that,
right.
that would write to me and stuff like that. And then after I got back from Korea and my 30-day leave, I asked, where's Booger? My dog's name was Booger, and I'd had him for almost 18 years. And so when he died last year. Well, we didn't want to let you know because we didn't want you to worry. Really? And stuff. So he said, yeah. He said, well, he was an old dog already and stuff. And so he said, no. I said, I went out there in the morning. He died. He was asleep under the tree like that, just like he'd gone to sleep and stuff. And so that's how I found out about the dogs. And then I got my discharge in Camp Elliott there. And while I was in Camp Elliott, though, I was also a main gate sentry and a prison guard. Actually, they called it a retraining command, but it was actually a prison and stuff. And then I got my discharge there.
Well, but you learned to drive. You didn't have a driver's license before.
Oh, right. No, I learned to drive while I was there in Vallejo. in Mare Island. I asked her, do you, oh yeah, he said, we got a Jeep, we can get a Jeep. So I learned in a Jeep, stick shift, of course. And so when I had gotten home, Rudy, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, said, Chip, he said, this is yours. A 40 Chevy, and back then, I mean, it was styling. I mean, it was really, oh, Rudy, yeah, I said, well, when you get your license, this is yours. And so after I got back, I learned how to drive. The next time I came down and said, I got my license.
Yeah.
So I drove the 40 Chevy back, and when I was in Vallejo, I was so popular. I was the only one that had a car. We go Georgia Street in Vallejo. Lord have mercy. On my 21st birthday there, they all took, oh, good Lord have mercy. Wow. And I don't remember hardly anything about that one, but that was my introduction also into the bars in Georgia Street in Vallejo. But other than that, then after that, I got my discharge and went
Came back to Ventura.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I went back to Ventura and I started at Ventura College, which at the time was on Poli Street there, where where the Ventura High School is now. It was Ventura College there before. And so I'd go, and I always took my niece, Cha-Cha, Marie, and back then there was no seat belts. So I would just, she'd stand up like this, and I would just hold her with my arm. And so I would just drive to the school and meet with my friends and things like that. And
Play baseball.
And play baseball. Oh God, yes, I was on the baseball team. I even made all Western State Conference. In fact, I got a picture where there. I didn't. And this is another thing that's so weird, that I never knew that I had been voted the most valuable player in baseball in 1951. I didn't find out about that until about 3 years ago, when I went to, I always went to watch Ventura College play, and Donnie Adams had been the coach there at Ventura College when I was there. His dad was also a friend, but he was up in the broadcasting booth, and so, hey, Chip, come on up. So I'd always go up to the broadcasting booth, and we'd talk about this, and then this one day he said, hey, Chip, he said, did you know that your name is on the most valuable player down in the coach's office in the big thing? What? He said, yeah, didn't you know you were MVP in 1951?
Wow.
I said, hell no. He said, well, go look. It's bigger. It's right there, So I went down, and sure enough, there. I said, well, I'll be damned. How about that?
Nice.
And so I took a picture. I had one of the coaches said, can you take a picture of that for me? Oh, sure. So I got a picture of that. But I never knew. All those years, and I didn't know, And but I mean, that was back there in the day. And so I had a friend, Flores from Oxnard, that also played on the team. And we're in the cafeteria this one day, and we're there sitting down talking, and then my wife, well, she wasn't my wife then, but she was walking this way, and Flores, oh, there's my friend Ida, So, oh, really? I said, yeah. I said, yeah. Ida, I said, come here, I want you to meet my friend Ray, And he came, and she said, Ida, this is my friend Ray, and this is Ida. And she looked at me and said, hi. I said, hi. I said, Freddie, I'll talk to you later. And she walked away. I mean, she just walked away. And so I thought, okay. And I didn't think nothing about her anyway. And then 2 weeks later, me and my friend Richard, we went to a football game in Santa Paula. And after the game, we're walking out, and we're walking like that, and then here comes Ida and her friend Lou, like that. She was a friend, and I thought, oh, Richard, I know that. I think I know that girl, I said, oh. So we stopped us. Ida? She looked at me and said, yes. Oh. I said, I'm Ray, you met Freddie the other day. Yes. And I said, can we talk? I said, you're married. What? She said, you're married. I said, No, I'm not married. I said, well, we see you with a little girl. Oh, no, that's my niece. I said, I'm not married. And her face kind of changed.
Softened up.
Yeah, and stuff. Oh, she, well, we thought you were married. Oh, no. I said, and so we started talking there, and we talked for a little while. And I said, well, can I give you a ride home? You know, she lived in Oxnard. And she said, well, she said, but I'm with Lola. She said, well, my friend Richard can go with Lola. And I'll, you know, then we'll meet over there at your house. And she, well, let me go talk to Lola. So she went and talked to Lola. And next thing I know, I'm driving her to Oxnard, and we were talking. We just carried on talking and stuff like that. And then my friend came later. And so when we got to her house there in the colony, I said, well, I said, you know, will I see you at school on Monday? Oh, yeah. She said, okay. I said, well, let's have a lunch. Oh, okay. And so we dated for a year, and then and we were married for 63 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, so, and that was how I met my wife.
Wow.
And things like that and stuff, and so.
And
but,
you had 2 girls and a son, 2 daughters and a son.
I had Reba and Julie and Ray. And my son was born on our 7th wedding anniversary.
Oh.
And I mean, really? I mean, you know, and we were married on October the 18th. My daughter Reba was born, we were married the 18th, and then my son was born on our way on the 18th also, and then my daughter Reba was born on the 15th, and then Julie was born in, I think it's June. I forget what, I got everything, I
It's fine.
got
You're
them
right.
all, I got them all.
And
marked.
then you started that tradition of military service. Your brothers, you had,
Yes, they served, like I say, in Vietnam, and when they get back, my brother John was a mess and stuff, and he lived for a couple of years, and then he died because of the effects of Agent Orange.
Agent Orange,
And my brother Paul, he's still alive. In fact, I just saw him last Friday when they had like a celebration of life for a friend, Jack Samaniego, who passed away a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I met him, then I gave him a ride home. He's home now. He's out of the hospital there, out of the center there in Oxnard and things like that. So.
and then your son,
He's in my son Ray is in San Diego, and he works for the VA down in San Diego. And
but he did not go into the Marine Corps.
No.
Well,
Back when he was 17 years old, he had always talked about going into the Marine Corps because of Dad and things like that. But then my son talking about joining the Marines, his dad didn't want to go. Oh, okay, Mr., but do me a favor, son. Talk to a Navy recruiter and see maybe, that they can come up with something that you might like instead. And so I did. He went down and talked to a Navy recruiter, and he came back and said, Dad, he said, would you be really upset if I don't join the Marine Corps? And I said, Mijo, it's your life. I've lived mine. This is your life. You do what you think is the right thing for you. And I said, Dad, he said, I think I'll join the Navy. It's Mijo, go for it. So he did. And he spent 22 years out. Then there came out a Master Chief, and now he worked for the VA down in San Diego.
and you have a grandson as well.
Yes, my
sir.
grandson, Casey, has been in now about 27 or 28 years, and he's going for 30.
Okay.
And so I see them quite often because my great-great-grandson, Greggy, is a hell of a ball player. He's 14 years old, and he plays for a traveling team down in Los Alamitos, or San Marcos. San Marcos.
Got those genes from great-grandfather.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was very, very fortunate that the good Lord just, I started playing as soon as I could pick up a glove and hit the ball. And we first started, it was just me and a friend, we'd play over the line back in the day at the Mayhenning School in Ventura, which is no longer there. Nothing there's now. And I remember I played the only time I did play was the 3 years in the Corps. I was in the Corps. I got out and I started playing. The first team I was hooked up with was with the Santa Paula Merchants back in the day when I started playing baseball. It was semi-pro baseball.
So what career choices did you make after the Marine Corps and getting married and playing softball? And what kind of jobs did you have?
I tried roofing. I was a roofer for I think if I recall, it was the Weaver Roof Service from Ventura, and I did that for a few months, and then I applied for a job. I think I think at the time it was either ServiceSoft or I don't remember who it was, but anyway, then I only worked a short time, and then I went to apply at Culligan Soft Water, and Mr. Harris at the time was the owner and manager there, and he gave me a job. I started in regeneration, was there a short time, and then I started routes, and I was also there a short time, and then they made me an installer or a plumber, and I ended up for about 20 years working for Mr. Harris, and then retired and stuff, and then during retirement, all I ever did was play ball. Just played, and then one weekend, if I recall correctly, there at the mall in southern Oxnard, the gangs at that time were coming up and beating up the older people walking along the beach and things like that. And one weekend, in broad daylight, they chased this young man down in the mall and shot him. And so my wife says, she said, she talked about this young girl that had been born in the town of Paradise in Northern California. And she says, she's always telling me how beautiful it is. Let's take a drive up there, Okay. And so we drove up on the weekend, and going up Pence Road, oh my God, the smell of the trees, the fresh air, everything. She said, well, shall we move here? Hell yeah, why not? So we don't have anybody back there. Our daughters were already married. Our son was in the Navy and stuff, and so we did. We moved up there, and we moved up there, I think, in 1990 that we moved up there, and it was very, very. It was a small town, not a lot of people, and less traffic and stuff, but the biggest town was Chico for us, which is about 30 miles down the hill from where we lived there, and
that was where the VA, you had VA services.
Yes, but and then of course in the meantime also when we lived there, I joined the American Legion. And the VA and disabled veterans there, and that was really, really where I found out that I was disabled. I never knew I was disabled until I went up there, and then this Master Sergeant, Carol Trader, who had been a Marine, of course, and a Navy Captain, Nigel Parkhurst, was a Navy Captain. When I went, they said, Ray, how's the ringing in your ears? It's always been, you're disabled. What? said, you're disabled. I said, look at me. You're disabled. You can be compensated for your disability. You know, you were a machine gunner, and you know you were. And I didn't feel very, very comfortable about the fact that I was disabled. I played ball all my life. I'm not disabled.
Yeah.
And so I went home and told my wife, Hannah, I said, the guys, they say I'm disabled and I can be compensated for it. She said, hon, let them do all the paperwork for you. Whatever you get, you deserve, you know.
Absolutely.
And so I thought about it, and why not, you know? So I went back and said, okay, so let's go. So they bring us your paperwork and everything else. So they started the paperwork and things like that. And so I got a letter from the VA down in Chico to meet this consular lady. I think, if I recall her name, I think it was Dorothy. I'm not sure on that one. But I think it was Dorothy. And when I walked in, they said, Mr. Flores. I said, Jim, I said, my name is Dorothy. I'm going to be your thing. She said, and whatever you're going to tell me, she said, I've heard it all. I've been at this now for 20 years. I've heard everything. So you're not going to shock me. You're not going to tell me something that I haven't heard or anything else like that. And said, have you talked to anybody about it? I said, no, I've never talked to anybody about anything like this. Okay, sit down and start. I talked to that lady for 3 hours and didn't realize.
Wow.
And she said, Ray said, yeah. She said, you know, we've talked for 3 hours. I said, what?
Wow.
She said, we talked for 3 hours. She said, and so he said, okay, you'll hear from us in a week or so. And so I went home and told my wife, son, did you? Yeah. He said, so, okay. And so about a week later, I get this letter, and there's a check in there. And I said, what? A check for 8,000 some hundred? What? I mean, really? He said, yeah, they paid me from when they started the paperwork. And I said, really? I said, oh my God. I said, really? I said, yeah. And so every month they get over $1,000. I said, okay.
Yeah.
And so.
And you get your hearing aids?
Yeah. And in fact, the hearing aids really came about because when we would watch television, my wife would sit here and I would sit here. And me, when I watch TV, I watch TV. Fina will attest to this also. My wife would talk to me and you know, men do not multitask.
No.
My wife told me that also, you know, because she could be cooking, doing 2 or 3 different times when I would do one thing at a time. And she said, well, you men, you can't multitask. We ladies can. And so she would be talking to me, what? Oh, you're dead. You go and get hearing aids from the VA. But you know, I really don't need them, you know. Go get them. That's why when they ran the tests on me, and sure enough, when the young lady that was doing the test, okay, she said, we're going to start with names first. Okay. Son, raise your finger when you hear the name. And so, that one good. Okay, now this one, she said, we're going to hear like chimes and bells. Said, okay. So I'm sitting there, I'm sitting, waiting for it to start. Next thing I know, she opens up the door. She said, okay, it's over. Did you start? It said, it's over. You finished. You didn't hear a damn thing. Really? I said, but you're talking to me now. Yeah, but you didn't hear because of the ringing, I guess. That was it, you know. Yeah. And so it's okay. You go get your hearing aids. And I never wear them. Believe it or not, the only time I would wear them is when I'd be watching TV with my wife. Then put your ear, perfect. So I put them in, and I still would hear, you know, whatever. I would still go and stuff like that. But with Fina now, she has such a soft voice that we're in the car in my truck. and she's talking to me. Are you talking? Yeah, I, and you better speak a little louder because I can't hear you. Other than that, I play billiards, I do everything else without this. And so she says, put it in for today because they're going to be talking to you.
Thank you.
Don't want you to think that you're deaf. Okay,
Well,
but
thank
I don't wear them all the time. It's
Yeah.
just on rare occasions and stuff like that.
And-
And it does help.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it really does. It does help.
Okay. And have you used the VA also for some counseling support?
At the beginning, yes, and they would tell me the same thing, always the same thing. Like the psychiatrist Ray, they said there is no time limit on grief. Nobody can tell you, hey, in a couple of months you'll be all right. No, nobody can tell you that there is a time limit on grief. He says, look at now. It's been 3 years or so, I said, and it's still, when you can't really talk about some things like that, and so things like watching TV, and I can't when I'm watching war movies and things like that, and boy, it's like everything comes rushing back again, and so I want to watch the movie and stuff, but still, I break down, and the fires, oh Jesus, I can't watch when they show the fires from California all over the place because right away it brings back the memories. Well, it's fact, and it did happen.
So you moved to you and Ida retired to Paradise, and you
Yes.
lived there for 30-some years.
Well, it was actually about, I would say 28. We
Okay.
moved there in 1990, and the fire was in 2018.
Okay.
So about 28 years. And so I had just been to St. George, playing in a tournament in October, of course. And I'd only been back maybe a week or so. And, well, before that, I got home, and my wife said, Auntie said, I got a bunch of stuff that I would like for you to take to Julie up in Oregon, our daughter Julie up in Oregon. Oh, okay. So she said, can you go tomorrow? You could take a couple and then come back. So I did. I loaded her up, took it up, came back. And while I was gone, she said, your grandson, Casey, called, and he wants to talk to you, Oh, okay. I said, yeah. I said, so Casey. Yeah, Casey, what's up, mijito? And he says, Grandpa, he said, I would like for you to do me a favor. I said, yeah, mijito, what's up? He said, I want you to be the man that gives me my first salute. I said, I'm being promoted to an officer in the Navy. Oh, mijo, no problem. I can do that. And he said, Grandpa, he said, I would like for you to do it in your dress blues. I said, mijo, it's not a problem. I got my dress blues. I said,
And you still fit in them.
yeah. I said, that's not a problem. Why? He said, well, it's going to be December the 1st at Point Magoo, and down here. Oh, mijo. So, Jesus, we come down. We'd come down quite to see Reba. Our daughter lived in Camarillo, and so we'd come down, and then I'd come to Mo to get my hair. So it wasn't a strange thing for us to drive down and come down here to visit. So there's not a problem. You thought, okay, it's what time? It's on December the 1st. Oh, mijo, we still got a month or so to go. Okay, so it's not a problem. Okay. And so my wife said, honey, says, just before, it says, take your uniform and put it to the cleaners and stuff, so that it's going to be clean and stuff. Okay. And so after that, after I had come back from Oregon, I had taken my suit to the cleaners, And I remember I had picked, and before that though too, that my suitcase there, when I went to St. George, I had taken it to show Jackie Newman, the picture, some things that I had in the, well, that was also in my truck, so that was still in my truck too. And so both my uniform and the bag were in my truck when the fire came, and it just, it was
Fast.
5:30 or 6, early in the morning. And our neighbor, we lived in a cul-de-sac, so there was only, I think, 6 houses in the cul-de-sac. And the one to our right of us was, I think they weren't home. That house was empty at the time. But then to the left of us was a lady that lived by herself, and my being a plumber, my wife was always there. She needs help, and there was always leaks everywhere. But so we got a call from the neighbor that was catty corner from us. Her husband was a butcher down at a store down in Chico. So he got up early. He leaves very early. And so Mary was her name. She used to be a waitress at one of the Chinese restaurants up there. And so she was awake when all of a sudden the flames were right there. And so she called my wife, Ida, you gotta leave, the flames are here. What? What? She said the flames are, what? Look out there. And sure enough, the forest, well, we lived in the forest. The trees were already, and when they fight, they explode.
They explode.
So they explode. And so, holy shit. Well, we had just pajamas on and stuff. And so, well, and even before this had ever come about, my wife and I would, if there's a fire, she said, we leave the car, we take my truck. So if anything ever happens, you jump into my truck and we go. Well, bullshit. What happened was, when as soon as I did, my wife got in the car. She said, and she's gone. And so I jump in my truck, and we got out of there. And so I'm following her down up Pence Road, not Pence, but where we lived up there. And then as soon as we made the turn, nothing but cars.
Yeah.
Everywhere. The road is completely packed with cars, okay. We lived up there. And so finally, my wife got in, and then I got in behind her. Well, trying to get down to the limits, people just, they didn't care. They wrecked and they hit, and they just, to get out. And people are running down the street. They're running down the street, and pickup trucks overloaded with people. They're just everybody trying to escape and stuff. And so it took us, well, it was, like I said, early in the morning, but it was pitch black. Everything was just pitch black. And ashes, thick like that, just ashes and things like that. And so as we were going down the road, more people got, and so I was 4 cars behind her. And then when we got down to Billy Road, there was a guy there. You go that way, you go that, you go that, and so my wife kept on going there, and then he had me go this way, and so we got separated, and nothing worked. No cell phones, nothing worked, and it was wall-to-wall cars. Well, you never knew there was that many cars and stuff, and then the flames were on both sides. Just homes are just exploding, and then we left, I would say, a little after, when we got out of the house, it was just a little after 6. And by the time I got down to the town limits of Paradise. They had already stopped the road coming up, and we were going down, both lanes going down. And Peggy, my wife's sister, who had lived with us for a year after she had divorced that donkey she was married to in Colorado, she drove from Colorado all the way up to where we lived by herself. Peggy did. And so she found a nice one-bedroom apartment down in Chico. And so she got a hold of us. Guys, come over here. There's a couple in our church that has already, the cloud, even in Chico, the clouds and the ashes were all over, everywhere. Because, I mean, it destroyed the town of Paradise, the fire. And so she said, they have a room for you, a bed, a shower, toilet, everything. You guys will be by yourselves, Oh, I said, Jesus, great, So she took us over there and introduced us. Very, very nice people, very, very nice. And so we stayed with them for about,
I know.
about maybe a week and a half, and then Sunday morning, that Sunday morning, my wife woke up and, hon, she said, my heart is going like this, take me to the ER. So I took her to the Enloe ER, and she hadn't sat there more than a few minutes, and boy, right away, they took her in, and they told me, you wait here until, a doctor will come and talk to you. And so I sat there, and then, I don't know how long, it didn't matter. And the doctor came out and said, Mr. Flores says, yes, we're going to keep Ida for a day, and we're going to keep her, so give her tests and stuff like that. Said, but give us another little while, we're going to put her in a room, then you can go in and talk to her. And so I waited, and then, okay, so I went in and talked to her, and she's sitting up, she looks fine, I said, don't worry, I'm okay, I'm fine. He said, what I want you to do, he said, I want you to go to Peggy's, you have dinner at Peggy's, and then you go back to and stay over, you sleep over, after you have dinner at Peggy's, go and stay at the house and sleep. Oh, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. And so we visited for a while and stuff, and then, okay, she said, go. The doctors are going to come and test it. Okay. So I went and had dinner at Peggy's, and then I went to the other house, and the next morning I got up bright and early, went to the hospital, and I don't know what time it was, I really don't. And so I'm sitting there with the doctor, Mr. Flores, yes, it says, we ran some tests on Ida, and we're going to keep her again today and tonight and run some more tests. I said, well, everything, we're just running tests. Oh, okay. So she said, but you can go see her, Okay. So I go, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I'm fine. She said, they're just going to run some more tests. I said, okay. So again, have dinner at Peggy's, and then go. This is Monday and Tuesday already.
Oh.
And so, same thing. Okay, Wednesday, I went there. Well, the doctor came and said, okay, he says, we're going to release Ida this afternoon, and then you can do, but we're making an appointment for her to go to Sacramento to talk to these two doctors, because he says, the doctors we have here don't do a stent other than open this. Your wife wants to go through the groin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So we're going to go talk to the two doctors down there and see what they want done. Okay, but we're going to release her this afternoon, and then tomorrow you go to Sacramento. You have a 12 o'clock appointment with one doctor. And so, okay, we got released, we got it pills and everything, and so we're driving over to Peggy's, and I tell her, you know what, why don't we just get a motel room tonight down in down in Sacramento? That way we'll be there, we can go look, find the hospital, and in the morning we can go right to the hospital there and things. And so Oh, she said, that's a good idea. Well, let's go tell Peg. So we went, Peg, she said, well, we're going, Peg. Oh, that's a good idea. So we went, we drove to Sacramento, got there to the best, not the best, but Holiday Inn Express, and we found it was just maybe a mile away, the hospital from there, so it's close. So we had the room way down in this end, and the thing was here, and then I parked my truck here. And I didn't know that was handicapped here until after we checked in and we took our luggage down there to the room, and then, oh, look, there's handicap. I'll just come around. I went to my truck, got in it, nothing.
Oh.
Nothing. I mean, it wouldn't, nothing. I mean, nothing. I said, really? You know, and I don't know dick about cars. And so I got out, lifted up the hood, and no midget in here, and I slammed it down, went in there, started right up. It started right up. I drove around, parked in the handicapper, turned it off, waited a little bit, started right up. That's all. What? So anyway, when they're done, oh, everything's fine. So we got to bed there, and my wife said, oh, hon, she said, we get to sleep together for the first time in 5 days, 4 or 5 days, and it was, oh, God, yes. And so in the morning, we got up, had breakfast. I guess went up to the truck, nothing. Again, and the truck had never, all the time, I had never done that. And so I said, well, what the shit? I went out there, looked at them, slammed it again, got in, started right up. Drove to the doctor. They took my truck, got in, and he drove it to where they parked, I guess, and stuff. Okay, so okay, you're going to see this doctor first, the doctor that did open heart surgery first. So we went and talked to him, and he's talking to her, and for some reason, I do not know why, the thing I remember most of anything else is when she's leaving, the doctor says, Ida, you're a perfectly healthy 82-year-old lady. You should have no problems. And that stuck in my mind and so, okay, so well, you go down and you see my friend, it says, and whoever you decide, says, we're both friends, we both work on people, we're partners, and so you go down. So we went down and saw the other doctor. She went in there and she talked to him and said, you know what, while you're here, let's take some x-rays so I can see what kind of a stent or whatever we're going to use, because she had decided she wanted the groin. Okay. So she went in, took the x-rays, came back out, got dressed, and she's sitting down. I'm sitting like this, and she's sitting here. And she looks at me, huh? She says, I feel a little thirsty. Can you give me a glass of water? Oh, sure. I went and got her a little glass. She takes a sip, sat down, looks at me, huh? She says, I feel a little dizzy, and died. Just like that.
Oh, Ray.
And, well, of course, I got a little berserk there, and I think the door was kind of closed, and I just ripped it open. I'm yelling, my wife, and then about 6 or 7 people came, and they're doing this, they're doing that, and then paramedics came, and they have that gurney thing, and they pick her up, and they put her on there, and they're doing something, and then they're going out, and I'm going with my wife, and no, Ray said, you can't go with her because our emergency thing is right next door. This young lady here will walk you right next door. And so, yeah, okay, so she walked me next door. I had my wife's purse and everything, and she took me to one of the guards. This is Mr. Flores. His wife is just being brought right here. The doctors will talk to him when they get ready. And so I sat there, and I don't know. I have no idea how long I sat there. And then I remember I walked outside for a little while, then I came back in and I sat down again, I don't know, and then finally, a doctor came, Mr. Flores. I said, yes, come with me, please. And he walked into this, and then he said, will you wait for me in here? And you know, in the movies, how they always show you this room where, and so, I mean, this is what it looks like to me. I said, and so I said, will you wait in here just a minute? I'll be right back. So I sat there, and he came in, and he looked at Mr. Flores. I said, yes, sir. He said, your wife passed. I said, passed what? She died. And that was it. I said, whoa, you know. And that's how I found out that my wife had died. And so, of course, everything came apart. And then he said, well, he said, I'll leave you alone for a little while. And I don't know how long he left me alone there. And then another man came in and said, would you like to be with your wife? Well, of course, you know. So I went in, and they took me in this room, and she's there, of course, and I go, and I go to kiss her, and she's cold, and so cold, and I got the blanket and put her up, and then I held her, I don't know how long, and then I remember I'm walking around like this. I'm walking around, and I don't remember how long I walked back and forth like that. But the whole time, and it was night already. It was dark. It was night. It was dark already. Not one single person, never, not one single person ever come in there and ask me if I wanted a glass of water, if it was all right. Nothing.
You wanted
Nobody.
a priest or
Nothing. Nobody came in. And then some ungodly hour of the morning, I don't know if it was the doctor or who, came in and said, your children are on the way. What? Says, your children are on the way. I said, what are you talking about? My daughter's in Camarillo. My son's in San Diego. My other daughter's in Oregon. Says, well, they're on the way. And I have no idea who called. I've never. Who called them and how did they find out? But apparently they checked something or another. And so, sure enough, later, it's still early in the morning, my daughter Reva showed up. My son had gotten a flight from San Diego to Sacramento, and then took whatever he took to the hospital there. And then my daughter, her and her husband, drove from where they live in Oregon to there. And I don't know how fast they drove, but they got there. They got there. And it was all early. It had to have been early in the morning, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. I have no idea. Where one of the doctors there and said, okay, he said, this is where you say goodbye to your mother. Because we both of us had donated our bodies to UC Davis for cremation. Okay. And he said, UC Davis is sending the people to pick up your mother. This is where you say your goodbyes. Okay. And so some time went by, and they said, UC Davis is here. You know, they're going to take her. So we went out, and I said, you know, and that was the last time I saw my wife. And then next thing I know is I get like a card or letter from UC Davis saying that that was it. They had cremated her.
And you have a marker at Ivy Lawn here.
Yes, well,
with your mother.
It's for my mom, and on her gravestone, I had my wife's name and
Okay.
date put on, and then my name and the date of birth, so.
So you'll be back together.
Yes, so I gave, I go, I take flowers to my mom there, and also visit my Al Hernandez and Mo. They're both Marines, that friends that are there. I visit them too at the same time. And so that was how, well, that's all I have of my wife, other than the pictures that,
Sure.
that were in there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have nothing.
Wow.
And then pictures here also that Peggy had taken
Good.
when we were in a parade. She took pictures of her.
Nice.
And so
Nice.
other than that, and the memories, of course.
Yes.
That,
You have a lot of memories.
oh, God, yes, oh, yes, and things like that and stuff. And so, other than that, then, of course, that picture there that was
Family
taken.
pictures,
of
we
the
will add
family,
those to your,
yeah,
to your
and things and,
DVD.
yeah.
Is there anything else about your time in the military that you want to share, or anything that you think
Other
we have
than,
missed?
like I say, when I was up in Paradise or Chico Magalia, when I belonged to the area, we would, we would help the schools when they would raise the flag. We would do that. We would be in the parades and like the Lions Club or or club members, the Elks, or sometimes they wanted a speaker, and they all get Ray. He's got his dress blues, you know. So they was Ray. Yeah, you're gonna go. So really? Yes. All you gotta do is stand and look pretty.
And you do.
And so anyway, so I would go there, and I remember this one specific time when I was there, and it was this army man. He was army that was there also in his uniform, but he was younger, thank God. And so, of course, the audience is there, you know, and the speaker or the guy with the microphone, he was a joker, this guy. I don't remember his name, but he was always coming up with something. And he told the crowd, okay, crowd, and I said, now take a look at these guys right here. Now, in your opinion, who has the most handsome uniform at all?
Oh,
Army, somebody clap. And how about the Marine Corps? Oh, I mean, you know,
yeah.
well, I guess you know who won this one. Yeah. And also, he said, do you know what the Army stands for? No, aren't really Marines yet.
Oh, gosh.
What? What did he say? Aren't really Marines yet. That always stuck in my mind. I said, oh, that's a good one, you know. And so, other than that, like I said, we participated in a lot of the town functions,
Nice.
parades, helping raise money. The Christmas party, we would throw Christmas parties there for the children of Paradise.
Nice.
And we were very, very active. And of course, cemeteries for the veterans that would die. And of course, whenever it was a Marine, guess who presented the flag
Wow.
to the survivors? And I did
Nice.
that for my very good friend Joe when he came up there. And a lot of times, like I said, when I would participate in functions like that, they would always ask me, from your time in the service, what did you really come away with? What kind of advice would you give these young children? And I would always tell them, first of all, is that be honest with yourself. Always be honest with yourself, and always treat people with respect. And that was, and in the Corps, that was something that they didn't really, it just was like expected of you. Yes, sir. And to this day, I mean, I call, how you doing, sir? And it's just something that that it's ingrained in you.
Yes,
And so respect is one thing that is really, and be, like I say, whatever, if something bothers you, talk to God. Because He'll give you an answer one way or the other. And stuff. And so, other than that, I thank the good Lord for I'm still vertical.
Yes.
I can still dance. I can still bowl. I can still do billiards. I can still help people with,
Yes.
things like that. So I'm very, very grateful. And then, of course, the 63 years He gave me with my wife, and then too, like I tell people, I have never, never questioned why. I have never said, why did you take my wife? Or why this and that? I always just thank Him for the 63 years He gave me with her. Although sometimes I would have liked maybe a minute or so. Just,
One more minute.
yeah. But things have worked out very nicely.
Yes.
And then, of course, also I met Fina, which been a tremendous help also, and things like that. So
Well, we want to thank you for your service and for sharing your story today.
So I have one more question. for you.
yes, sir. See, I mean, it just comes naturally that yes, sir. It just happens. I mean,
You're respectful.
I don't think about it.
Yeah,
You know.
Military does that to you.
Yes, sir. It does.
So my question is, how did the military change you as a person?
Basically, well, it made me into the man that I am now. Because other than that, like I say, I learned how to speak to ladies, I learned how to dance and live. Up to then, I was just a young idiot that didn't know nothing other than playing sports. And so the military actually made me into the man I am today, more or less.
Sure.
And that was it.
It changes everybody.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
That's fair.
Sometimes
And
for
it
the
did a
worst,
Good
and
job on
sometimes.
you.
Well, yeah, I'm glad of that too. But then too, you have to remember that I had very good drill instructors. They are the ones that really show the respect and things like that. And so, and then, and like I say, the whole time I was in Korea, I never saw an officer at all, never. I was always, the highest rank I ever saw was a master sergeant, which of course is, but, and I certainly thank you, all three of you for showing the interest that.
Oh, of
Your
course.
story is a delightful story.
You saw the one
Oh, yeah.
that my son had made for me 2 years ago on the Marine Corps birthday. He invited me down to Vista in my uniform, of course. And we had dinner at this beautiful, beautiful Italian restaurant down in Vista. And I didn't know who was going to be there. He just said, that we got dinner. Well, when we went into there's this table with 12 chairs. I said, well, Jesus, who the hell is coming? Well, it was my grandson and his wife and their children and Clara, my wife's sister. I said, good God, me hold that. And then he gave me this thing that I
Plaque,
have.
yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah.
The wood,
The
one out of wood.
Right, yes.
We'll take pictures of that too.
And so there's things that, like I say, that my son, also he gave me that picture thing right there, the one with the flag.
Yeah.
So when I asked Ray, he flies the flag. So he has the beautiful American flag with the Marine symbol, and you see it as you go up and down the street. And so when I introduced myself, I said, so I understand you're a retired Marine, and his response to me was, oh ma'am, a Marine is never retired.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
That's what you told me.
Yeah, we've heard that, we've heard
Yes,
that
yes.
many times.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's true because, you know, and what other service, when you see a friend, Semper Fi,
Yeah,
do you hear the Marine Corps, hey, wings? Never. Army, forget that one, Jack, you know. But Navy, the same thing. But the Marines are the only ones. And when you see another Marine right away, hey, Semper Fi, or something to that. I'm driving by, a guy's got a flag, we honk
Yeah.
and wait.
Yeah.
I mean, what other service actually does that? No, none of them.
That's what I know.
No,
No.
right?
All right, sir, I think we're gonna wrap it up here, so we can.
Well,
kinda
thank
get-
you so very much.
Oh,
I
thank
really
you.
thank you. I thank